All right, y'all. We back, man. Another one. I told y'all I had some bangers coming, but I think this is the one. Not just because of who this person is in his career, but what he means to me. This is near and dear and close to me. This is my family. And before we get started today, I'm gonna tell y'all a little bit about Beyond the Armor. Beyond the Armor is where we find out who the person is under the armor, without the accolades, without the titles, without the worldly obligations. And that's what we're gonna do today is debunk the life of Mr. Jonathan McFadden. Cousin, please
Cousin.
please give these people an introduction to who you are.
Okay. Hey, everybody. It is a joy to be here with my big cuz, Seth. I'm Jonathan McFadden. Like you said, I am a staff content designer. And I can explain a little bit more about what that means if you're unfamiliar with that particular job title or that discipline in tech. But essentially, I have a writing background before I became a content designer in UX. I worked as a copywriter in marketing. And before that, I was a journalist for about 5 years working in newspapers. And so I covered crime and public safety and the courts and homicides and meth lab busts and fires. That was my life. Life today is a lot more stable, thank God. But yes, my journey has been an interesting one, and I am grateful for it. I live outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, with my wife and daughter. My heart beats.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, I'm sure we'll get into other things, but I'm
absolutely.
a aspiring novelist, a comic book nerd, a minister, a Bible study teacher,
All of that. Listen,
all
y'all,
the things.
we got a lot to debunk, and I'm
Yeah.
prepared this morning. As you can see, I just took a sip of my coffee because I know this conversation is going to be a grand one.
hmm
Jonathan, as we start off, man, I think it's very important for people to know how I begin to know you as my cousin, and it's through an act that's in the Bible, and it's through forgiveness.
hmm
And we'll get into that in the seventh episode. That'll be about myself. But learning how to forgive my father was the catalyst that was broken, that I was able to pursue things in my life. I was not the person I am today, and when I learned how to forgive, and forgiveness is a marathon, my life changed. I went back, got my undergrad, masters, and all that. But we're gonna keep this strictly Jonathan. But I think it was just very important for people to understand through the act of forgiveness from my father, things started to unwind, and then I found out who my people were, and so we've been knowing each other for the past 8 years. Thank God for that. Jonathan, we
Yep.
got to go to the childhood, man, because
Okay.
I know a lot about our parents and
hmm
how they was kind of raised up, and their parents, Aunt
hmm
Pearl. Tell me a little bit about your childhood and what makes Jonathan Jonathan today.
Okay. So I was born and raised for the first 10 years of my life in Brooklyn, New York. And as Seth mentioned, his Aunt Pearl is my grandma. And so my grandmother had moved to New York in the 50s during the Great Migration when tons of people from the South were moving up north for other opportunities. Black folk, that is,
Yeah.
primarily moving up north. And she had my mom and my aunt, Seth's cousins,
Yeah.
um, up there. And so my mom and dad met in Brooklyn and had me, got married and had me. And so that's what, like, that was my early context. It was in this cultural melting pot um, that was vastly different than what I would later experience once we moved to Orangeburg, South Carolina. But as a kid, I would say my love of writing developed really, really early. I knew that I wanted to write. I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to write,
Right.
but I still have memories of my mom sitting me on her lap while she would be using a typewriter. And she was a church secretary at the time. And so she would be writing letters or whatever. And, she had a nice old school typewriter and she
Oh
taught me how to
wow.
type.
Yeah.
I was like 3 or 4 and she was teaching me how to type. And it just kind of developed from there. I don't know if she just thought like, oh, this is a skill he'll need to know. I don't know if she sensed in her spirit, like, okay, he's going to need to be really good at the mechanics of words and creating words. But it definitely was like a catalyst that kind of got me on this track of just like always spending time in front of a computer. So as we eventually got our first computer, I think like in 97, it was a Gateway 2000, if you remember those.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure.
yeah, I was obsessed. I was obsessed. And I would just write. I would just clickety clack on that computer all the time. And I would just make things up. I was really imaginative. I liked a lot of TV, but I didn't just like the action of a cartoon, or I liked what was happening behind the scenes. I liked
Yeah.
to understand, how did this come together? How did they make the thing?
Wow.
And I would do research on it. Like I was a geek. I was deep into like production and just writing and how they come up with scripts. And I would do my own
Yeah.
version and come up with my own worlds and all those kinds of things. And so, yeah, it kind of just spawned from there. But
And
yes,
so
eventually, oh, go ahead.
So
Yeah.
so yeah, let's debunk that a little bit. Yeah, that's very important because what I'm hearing in like you explaining this time with your mom, not only is this your mom and near and dear to you, but you also picking up a skill, and now the person that you have become today was being birthed and being groomed even back then, right? When you was creating your own worlds, you took typing to a whole nother level. You wanted to know why movies and how they were made and production. And now I see the understanding of the staff content, creator and
Right.
everything that you do. But I just want to debunk that moment because I think people need to really understand creativity, and we're
Hmm.
looking at it today with Mr. Jonathan McFadden. So Jonathan, go ahead. You can talk more about your childhood. I just want to debunk that part right there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think that's exactly right. Like that's kind of the through line, right? It's just understanding how things work. And I can kind of trace how my career has developed from there because in college I pursued journalism. I have a degree in journalism. And so I was working, I was on the student newspaper for all 4 years. Eventually, my senior year, I was the news editor for our student newspaper. I went to Winthrop University in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Go Eagles.
Yeah.
Um, love my Eagles to this day. And I did internships and I did some freelance work for local newspapers in the area. And I just got really immersed in this world of journalism. And what I liked about it was, one, yes, the writing, but I really loved also the ability to just ask any question I wanted and to
Yeah.
unpack things and to
Yeah.
learn things and to dig deeply. And that has continued to follow me throughout my career, even as my work as a content designer, which, is a fairly, in the world of like design and tech, is fairly nascent and new somewhat. The
Yeah.
formal name of it is new, not the actual practice of it.
Right.
So, and what that work involves is, we are the people who help make sense of what's happening in a digital interface or in a digital product or service.
For sure.
So, like, there are a lot of, and this will probably resonate with you, but like in a system, there are objects, and all of these objects represent something and they have meaning. And what I like to tell people is that if you were to use your favorite app like DoorDash and you would just strip out all the language in that app, all the words, like you won't see, all you see is like a little pill. You don't actually see a button that says buy now, or
Yeah.
you just see like images of square image, modular images of food. You wouldn't really know what to do. And so as content designers, we're responsible for understanding the objects in the system and kind of translating those in a way that everyday people can use these products, these
User
apps.
friendly. User
Yeah,
friendly.
make it
Yeah.
user
Absolutely.
friendly. And we
Yeah.
do that primarily through language. We do
Yeah.
that through text. We do that through words. And so a lot of people who do this work, we have writing backgrounds. We're people who understand semantics, the meaning of something.
Yeah.
We are experts at information architecture, understanding how information should be presented and how it should flow in a way that makes sense for a user so that you can navigate an app or a website
Yeah.
intuitively. We're, experts at taxonomy, like classifying and grouping objects and grouping systems so that you can create like, even if you think about, let's say like a navigational pathway on a website, like those
Right.
are a lot of times built in with taxonomies because they kind of just connect and they flow. And it's like, okay, you have this part that connects to that part, just kind of like,
Yeah.
like the taxonomy of a species. It's
Yeah.
like how things are broken down. And so, like that's a lot of the work that we do. UX writing is involved, but research is involved, a lot's involved. But yeah, it's just understanding how things work and being able to explain those and simplify it for people so that they can use the thing. And so that to me is really exciting. And I really enjoy that. And I think it absolutely started with my mom sitting me down and teaching me how a typewriter works. And it was cool
Wow.
because when I went to college
Yeah.
and like my freshman year, I was a, student assistant in the Department of Mass Communication as part of my
Yeah.
work study program. And they required me to type letters with a typewriter. And I was one of the few students who actually knew how to use one at the
Yes.
time. And that was because of my mom. It's like,
Let
yeah, I know how to use this.
look, you know how the Bible say, "Let your gift make room for you." Well,
Yes, it
that
made
gift,
room.
it keep making room, man.
It made room.
Listen, Jonathan, we got to talk about a certain time in your life, right? I remember when we first talked, and you told me about being like an editor for Snaps, man, and I want to talk a little bit about that. And how was your experience with, I guess it was reporting crime, and or you the
Mm.
editor for it, or what have you? How was that?
So I was a reporter for the Rock Hill Herald,
Okay.
crime reporter for the Rock Hill Herald, and then later a reporter at the Charlotte Observer. Um, and I would say like my experience as a crime reporter was fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, it was perhaps one of the toughest jobs I had at that point because
Right.
my days were spent literally writing about, interviewing people about the most horrible things that people would do to each other.
Yeah.
I would wake up at 6:30 a.m. and I would immediately have to jump on the phone and call local police departments. And I had a script that I would say every day. I would say the same thing every day. Any shootings, stabbings, homicides overnight. Like that was I had to get the update almost immediately because if I need to know how the day was going to go, if something went down overnight, and would I need to just jump on it and break the news because
Yeah.
we were competing. Like Charlotte was a top 25, is a top 25 media market.
Yeah.
Rock Hill is a suburb of Charlotte. And so we were competing with a lot of major news networks. And so breaking news on Twitter was really big at the time. It was really taking off at the time. And yeah, it was just hyper competitive. You had to move really quickly. But a lot of what I did day to day was gruesome. Like it was really, I'm literally knocking on people's doors, asking them about their family member who was just killed.
Oh,
And
wow.
here I am with a notepad and a pencil, and I'm here to get as many details as possible.
Yeah.
And there were some hard, hard situations. I mean, the things that I covered were just, again, awful, grisly.
We're
But
hangings, yeah.
there was after one particularly hard day on the job in which a 74-year-old woman in Rock Hill was stabbed to death.
Yeah.
And I covered that and I talked to neighbors and, I'm writing the story and it just really, really weighed on me. It hit me like really tough, really hard.
Yeah.
I was really close with the newspaper's obituary clerk. Her name's Kim Grant. And Kim is a believer. And so I was just like, after I filed my story, I was just kind of venting to Kim and I'm like, I am just overwhelmed by this. This hurt like is so much. And she was just so empathetic. And we talked about it. And she said something to me that really changed my perspective. She said, what if crime reporting is a mission field you never really considered before?
Mm.
That changed everything because from that moment I realized like God has me here for a reason. At this
Yes.
point, I had been saved for years. I,
Right.
had been involved with college ministry. Now I'm a professional out here and I'm still living my life for the Lord and understanding that he directs my path and that he's the architect of my life.
Yeah.
And I realized in that moment, like, for the time I was a crime reporter, he placed me in contact with people who were in pain.
Yeah.
Like, the most painful moments of their lives, I was there.
For
Yes, to
sure.
do a job, but I could also treat them with dignity. There were moments where I was obviously, I didn't tell my editors this, but I would pray with people if they would
Yeah.
allow me to,
Yeah.
because I'd be right there, like, getting all the details, and they'd be just, you know if they were willing to talk to me, they would just unload. It was for them sometimes really cathartic and
Yeah.
therapeutic to just have somebody to talk to, someone who listened to them and treated them with sympathy, with compassion, with decency, and wasn't just sticking a huge camera in their face.
For
And so
sure.
it gave me a level of contact with people again who were undergoing some of the hardest moments of their lives. And to kind of minister to them in that moment.
Yeah.
And so that changed my entire perspective on the work that I did. I did that for about 3 years before I moved over to the Charlotte Observer and started reporting on some other things, but I would still say today, like, the being a crime reporter was really transformative in how I understood what it means to be the city upon a hill and what it means to be an ambassador of the gospel, what it means to be placed strategically where God has you to bring light in dark places.
Yes, yes. Listen, man. That. Listen. If y'all ain't shedding a tear at this moment, something wrong with you. Because, like, seriously, this work that you was doing at that time reminds me of the work that I have been doing as a substance
Mhm,
abuse counselor, and also I work for 911 as a peer support leader. You know, when people would take calls or officers were involved in some type of
mm,
shooting or anything of that nature, they will come to our team, and this is what kind of birthed me to want to go deeper into mental health. And I remember when I first started taking calls, because you got to take calls first. You got to work before you become a peer support leader. Because they voted me in the peer support leader,
mm,
and taking those calls, and like you said, at the most vulnerable time in people's lives, where some of them don't know CPR, and I'm having to teach them CPR on the phone while their loved one is in
mm,
cardiac, and all these different things, or people having, ideation. I won't say the first word, ideation,
yeah,
and I'm having to talk them through it. And that's how I knew God gave me the gift to be able to talk people through some of the toughest situations. And then also, my past year has been one of those
mm,
things that now I can, minister to people about, right? Grief, loss.
yeah,
But anyway, man, we're gonna keep moving, and I find it very compassionate about how you turned your perception around during that hard time of
mhm,
reporting those type of stories. So yeah, I'm glad those people had you in those moments.
yeah,
Yes, man. Let's talk about your ministry, right? Because I
mhm,
know at one time you was doing some missionary work,
mhm.
and yeah, yeah. Let's just talk about that. When did you start missionary work, and how was that?
Yeah, so the church that I attend, I've attended since 2008 when I was a freshman in college, Tabernacle of Praise Church International in York, South Carolina. And so the church is very missional in nature. Like our pastor, Bishop Alfred Jackson, travels to Liberia, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Kenya yearly, like every year.
Wow. Yeah.
And he has worked with a lot of local ministries and a lot of local pastors to help build and kind of like, I guess you could say, even augment their ministry efforts. He's led crusades and done, baptisms and rivers, things like that, like really
Yeah.
on the ground. And so he has always been very open to members of the church joining him, and several have. And so in 2016, I finally did. 10 years ago now,
Yeah.
uh, a group of us guys went, and we went to the Dominican Republic. Actually, that was where we first went. And this isn't like the vacation spots in the Dominican. This wasn't a resort that we were staying at. We were in Barahona, which is very rural countryside in the DR. Like mountain is beautiful. I
Yeah.
mean, beautiful,
Yeah.
uh, but remote in a lot of ways. I felt very remote, and so that was just a, oh my gosh, perspective enhancing experience. Like it changed a lot of my perspective on America and
Yeah.
American Christianity for sure.
Right.
And that'll do it. Trust me, when you see the passion and the
Yeah.
zeal of people who are impoverished, because they primarily in Barahona, most people were impoverished. They were living in third world conditions. And what we were doing there was that we were helping with the construction of a church. So
Yeah.
we were actually making cement, which was dope. Honestly, like I'm like, oh, I learned how to make cement from like all the natural materials that God has provided with us without the assistance of a truck.
Yeah.
We didn't have cement; we mixed it ourselves. You got to put a lot of strength in that thing. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
For sure.
Um, but we spent a lot of time with the children. We spent a lot of time with the pastor and his family. The pastor has actually recently moved to Charlotte, so he is actually with us here in America now. But yeah, it was just a really, really great experience that, I mean, I remember when I came back, I was sad. The night we got back, I I cried
Yeah.
myself to sleep because when you again you spend time in an environment where people are hungry for the gospel and they are like avid and passionate and zealous about God because and I hate I don't want to like amplify any kind of tropes or stereotypes about oh poor people always love God because they don't have anything,
Right.
but there is a certain level of perspective that people who are accustomed to things that we are not accustomed to, like
Right.
they have a way of engaging and understanding God that I think in the Western world we oftentimes miss because we
Yeah.
have so many distractions. Like we have
Right.
so many things around us that can take us away, take our eyes and our focus off the Lord. But
Yeah.
when you have very little in terms of material things,
For sure.
your eyes are locked in and their eyes were locked in. I mean, children, like in that particular church, the pastor made it a requirement that every single child, of which there were dozens, had to learn an instrument. Every single one. And now these children are now some of them adults, which is wild to think about. But
Yeah.
they know how to play this and they know how to play that, and they're leading praise and worship, and they're on the music ministry, and they're going out to crusades, and they're evangelizing. And so you see that passion, and it's like contagious. It really is contagious, but it can also make you a little sad because you
For
come
sure.
back and it's like sometimes in church people won't even lift their hands. They won't even say amen. It's like, y'all, come on now. God has been too good. You can
Man.
say something. You don't want the rocks to cry out, do you? So
Yeah, because we in a blessed country, man.
we really are. And like
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, there are a lot of issues with America, a ton.
Yeah. Right.
But in terms of like material wealth,
Yeah.
even those of us who are struggling a lot still have things that many other people in many other places don't.
Yeah.
And so that 2016 experience was just redefining for me. And then I went to Malawi, East Africa in 2017, 2018, and 2019. My wife, Yvonne, at the time we were dating, she went with us in 2019, a month before I proposed. And so
Oh wow.
that was a really special
Yeah.
experience. Fell in love with Malawi. Malawi is known as the warm heart of Africa, and it's called that because of the kindness and the warmth of the people who live there. And that is what we experience. And literally, I mean, I can't wait to get back. COVID, of course, kind of tamped down on a lot of that travel, and now we have a child and who's very young, and so it's hard. But neither of us, both of us, can't wait to get back because and I can send you videos and like I have tons of them. Sometimes I go back and watch just the praise and worship services. I go back and watch like the time we spent with a lot of the children as part of the school. Like we were doing work at a school there, and in Blantyre, Malawi, and it was just such an amazing experience. It's good to get away from your everyday context and
Yeah.
just see how God moves in
Yeah.
other environments, again, where there are fewer distractions. Like
For
the
sure.
Holy Spirit is a gentleman. So he does not override our will. He is not going to necessarily force us to do things, but you can see what happens when people are surrendered to him and how he moves. And I have witnessed, um, I've seen the Holy Spirit move in ways there that he can absolutely and will move here, but it just seems to take us more. It
Yeah,
seems to,
and that take
yeah.
yeah, that takes me to, like thinking about the scripture when it talks about his still small voice. Well,
Yes.
it's hard to hear a small voice when you're surrounded by sensory overload over here in America, right? We got social media, we got moving parts, we got careers, we got,
Yes.
talks of AI every day. We
Oh,
got we
every
got
day.
we got people experiencing layoffs, and this is gonna segue into a very intimate topic for
Hmm.
yourself. But before we get there, I wanna talk about marriage, right?
Ah,
And
yes.
yeah, we got to hit on marriage and and the baby and being a dad because you got
Yeah.
dad gang on your hat, so we might as well talk about that
Might
today.
as well.
Yeah, so
Might as
what's your
well.
experience, man? Since you've been married, and I met Yvonne, and she's an amazing
She
person, and I
is.
met the baby as well, and so
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for you all. But tell me, as far as your experience, how has everything been? Since you got married? Yeah,
Yeah, we've been married going on 6 years now, and it has been in that time, which feels long and short sometimes at the same
yeah,
time. in that time has been easily the most sanctifying experience of my life.
Right.
Like, when you talk about a mirror, marriage is a mirror. It is exposing everything. I've never
Yep.
felt more vulnerable and naked in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And it is good. It is
Yeah.
so good. It's hard. It's work. It's
Yes.
intentionality
Yes.
every single day. It's making mistakes and owning them. It's knowing how to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's knowing how to dissect
Yeah.
issues. It's knowing how to resolve conflict. Is
Yeah.
understanding that we have very different ways of resolving conflict
For
and
sure.
how to respect each other's processing, like how each other processes. It is going through the fire and this and the rain together. I mean, just this morning, like, I won't get too deeply into this. Maybe you and I can talk about it later.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like, there are some medical things happening with Yvonne right now,
Mhm.
and it, like, it's through sickness and in health, right? Like, it is standing beside each other, committed to each other,
Yeah.
um, crying together, yelling together, like
Yeah.
raging together, but then also being defiant in prayer together. It is
Yeah.
trusting God together. When I falter, she picks me up. When she falters, I pick her up. Um, and then you throw in a child, like, when people like, if there's anyone listening who thinks having a baby is going to solve any marital issues or any, no, let me help debunk that now.
Please.
It does not do that. What it
Right.
does, it exacerbates everything, because
Yeah.
now you two have an entire life, and if you have multiple children, many lives that are completely reliant on you, and the way you parent could be different. Like,
Yeah.
the way you think about parenting could be different.
Yeah.
Your partner, but you have to figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
as partners together, as teammates
Yeah.
together, how are we going to do this? You have to remain united. Like, there are times like Micah, our daughter, whom, listen, she's got me wrapped in a lot of ways.
Yep.
She is a quintessential daddy's girl.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But like, like, even though she's young, she'll be 3 in October. You can already see how she's like sometimes trying to play us against each other. You
Yeah.
can kind of, it starts real early.
Yeah.
We have to remain united. Like, if we agree, like, no, okay, she is not going to have yogurt before dinner, like dinner first. Like, we both have to stick to that,
Yeah.
because Micah will throw a tantrum. She'll throw a fit, or she'll get all sweet. Daddy, yogurt. I want yogurt, because she goes,
Yeah.
I melt. But I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I have to be strong. I have to be strong.
That's
But
right.
then sometimes Yvonne is the one who's like, oh, but I want her to have a yogurt. And I'm like, no, we agreed.
That's
Like,
right.
parenting is hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard.
It is.
And it changes all the time. Like, you're dealing with phases and adaptations and adjustments. And like, Micah has been undergoing potty training, potty learning since January, and there
Yeah.
are good days and bad days and accidents and then no accident. It's like up and down all the time, and then you still have each other to take care of. So,
Yeah.
and that can be tough. It
It is.
requires almost everything from you and more.
Yeah.
It requires everything you can give and more. And if we were not anchored in Christ, I honestly do not know how things would go.
Right.
I don't want to find out.
No, no, no,
Cause
me
yeah,
either. Yeah.
yeah, cause it ain't easy.
No.
It's just not. And a lot of people romanticize it. Um, I will say something that I am grateful for, I'm not my father's only son. My father has an older son, my brother, my half brother, Damio. We were not raised together. So I was raised as an only child. And I
Right.
think one of the benefits of that was that even though my parents were never like overt or like trying to show all their stuff in front of me,
Yeah.
you just kind of pick up on things as an only kid. Like, you're just
Yeah.
like, something's going on.
For
And
sure.
I think the benefit of that for me was that I didn't have a lot of romanticized notions about marriage before I got married. I
Right.
knew that, oh, this is serious. Like,
Yeah.
you go through stuff
Yeah.
as a married couple.
Yeah.
There's hard stuff coming. And so when Yvonne and I were dating and I knew that God was calling me to marry her and her me, like, I knew it wasn't gonna be lollipops and rainbows and
Right.
sunshine every day. I'm like, I am intentionally choosing a person who I believe I can go through life with. Not just the
Wow.
good things, but especially the hard things. So
Man.
I'm serious about this thing because
Yeah.
I didn't treat it lightly. I mean,
Yeah.
I was 29 when we got married. I waited. Like we waited and she was 31 at the time.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like
Yeah.
we were not quick in trying to like just throw ourselves into marriage. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that we were both kind of on the same page about that because I the things we've gone through in just these 6 short years have been intense, have really been intense. Like they've been beautiful.
Yeah.
We built together, we've had a child together, we bought a home together, we've experienced a lot of growth together, but they've been hard. There have been
Yeah.
medical issues, there have been
Yeah.
surgeries, there have been layoffs.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
she's gotten laid off before. I got
Yeah.
laid off a few months ago. Like, these are the seasons of life that you weather together and you
Let's
need to
add on
be together.
let's add on that weight, right?
Yeah.
And this is a very ah
It's all right, bro.
y'all know it's
Yeah.
real.
It's real.
I was talking to my cousin the other day and we was talking about what he was experiencing and I remember praying with him and going into the Psalms and then
Mhm.
also after we got off the phone I was crying and my wife she knows Jonathan, she loves Jonathan. She came in and we started praying for, Jonathan, because I know what type of person he is. I know who he is. And he's like my little big cousin, right?
Mhm.
Cause yeah, he paved the way for me and it's sort of like my wife said it's sort of like Martha and Mary and how
Mm,
his mom was like Martha and my mom was like
mhm,
Mary and Jonathan paved the way
mhm,
for me because who he is and he's introducing me to the people that he knows, which I know a lot of you all gonna be paying attention to this because I seen you all acting up on LinkedIn. So I already know what type of person he is, and then I got my own network of people that
mhm,
know who I am, and so this is a beautiful moment, and yeah, this definitely not going to be edited out. But Jonathan, um, you had a long stint at Shopify. I think it
mhm.
was 6 years and 7 months, something like
Almost
that.
almost 4 years there.
Oh,
Yeah.
4 years. I mean, four
Yeah.
years,
You're
and
good.
okay, I got you.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you started working with Block, which it was
Mhm.
a segment of Block, which is called Square.
Right.
Tell me about the transition from Shopify to Square, and then hearing the ultimate news that you were going to be
Mhm.
laid off.
Yeah. Woo! What a journey that was. I will say before getting laid off, my last year and a half-ish at Shopify was pretty it was difficult. It was difficult. So, there had been some things happening on the leadership front at Shopify, that changed and, a new leader came in who had a very different opinion about content design's place in the organization and what that should look like and whether our work should be the same as it was. AI has definitely been an impetus for a lot of change. Like I have strong opinions about how that change has been adapted and applied, particularly in my discipline. But
Right.
there are people who have really, I would say, hurriedly made this call that, oh, we don't need people who write because the AI can do it all. I think that's completely bogus and wrong and incorrect for many reasons. But that is, when people are trying to be competitive and keep up with the zeitgeist of the time and like the trends, they make really hurried and, in my opinion, rash decisions. And so it felt like things for content design at Shopify were beginning to change, and they were. Like I saw the writing on the wall. We all did. It was blatantly obvious. Like, okay, a lot of us
Right.
probably won't have a job too much much sooner, uh, much longer. And so in December 2025, I left for another opportunity because I had gotten hired at Square. So I got the job at Square in November. Yeah, got my offer in late November, like the week before Thanksgiving, in fact. And so I was really excited. I was like pumped to join the organization. Square was really reputable. It was well known for having a really like great content design practice, especially. It's a legacy tech company, as much of a thing that is. It
Yeah.
founded in 2009, founded by the founder of Twitter. Like it has like staying power in the industry, and so it felt like a really good move in my career. And so I joined and started working there at the top of 2026. And I liked it. Like I really enjoyed it. I was beginning to find my rhythm. I worked on Square's LLM powered voice agent, and I really enjoyed doing that because for me, it felt like, oh, they get it. Like they understand that content designers are especially useful when it comes to large language models and how these models exist in the world and how they behave, because that was my job. I was essentially helping to design the behavior for this voice agent. And I'm like, yeah, you need people with design thinking acumen. You need people who are experts at language to help define the parameters and the guardrails and the responses for this agent when it's dealing with customers. So I was like, this is perfect. This is great. I love this work. I was super fascinated by it. Love the people I work with, was really enjoying my collaboration with my cross-functional partners. And then February 26th came. And
Mm.
for me, it was 4:05 p.m. There's an email from the CEO letting us know that he was going to be reducing headcount in the org by 4,000 some people. And then a follow-up email came to let me know that my role had been impacted. And I was stunned.
Yeah.
It's not that I was surprised that layoffs were happening, because working in tech, big tech especially, having been in big tech for a while, the spate of layoffs started like right around the time OpenAI, debut ChatGPT. So like around 2022, even before then a little bit, like you
Yeah.
had all these rolling layoffs happening. And
Mhm.
by God's grace, I had survived two major rounds of layoffs at Shopify. There was a big round in 2022. There was another big round in 2023. My job remained intact during both. I weathered both of those.
Yes.
But I think what stunned me most about Square was the timing of it. I had just joined the company
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm not even there a full 2 months and they are kicking me out the door. And
Right.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Wait, what? And because I got the news at like 4 p.m., I had to leave at 4:30 to pick my daughter up from daycare. So I'm
Mm.
like, I don't get even time to really sit with this news before daddy mode has to I have to activate daddy mode and I have to be there for her and I have to pick her up and I have to get dinner ready. And I'm like, I don't get time to even deal with it, you know? And that sucked.
Yeah.
That really, really sucked. Um, and that was hard. And then it was harder even the next day when it's like, okay, I don't have a job.
Mm.
I still have to be a dad. I took her to school the next day. And I remember obviously the people at the school didn't know. I didn't broadcast it. But I remember one of her teachers told her, like, okay, say goodbye to daddy. He has to go to work. And that just punched me in the gut.
Yeah.
Cause I'm like, no, I don't. I don't have any work to go to.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the thing about a layoff isn't just a hit on my career. It hits my family.
Yeah.
Our jobs, our livelihoods our livelihoods are attached to our work in this country, in many places, but like our access to quality healthcare, our ability to keep our daughter in a daycare, because daycare costs nowadays are basically essentially it's half our mortgage.
Yes, it
you
is. Yeah.
know, Plus, oh, there's the mortgage. There's
Yeah.
the car payments, there are the bills and all the things. And so you're like, what do we do? Like
Yeah.
what happens next? I will say in almost the immediate aftermath of getting the news, I did what I typically do, which is like immediately I'm like, all right, let's get to it. Let's hustle. Let's hustle. And my DMs were flooded. Like I made the announcement on LinkedIn, my DMs were flooded. Hiring managers wanted to talk. This person has a role open. This person is like, oh, we want to talk to you. And so I had a lot of positive momentum in the early. So I didn't really feel a lot of it until later when the momentum began to slow down.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all of the contingencies and conditions with these jobs began to rear their ugly heads. Like, yeah, we would really love to interview for this. Can you move to New York? Or can you relocate to San Francisco? Like, they want us to go back in office now in the Bay. Is that going to be a problem for you? And uprooting my family right now is just not in the cards for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like all of a sudden, all these opportunities, like brick wall, brick wall, brick wall. And as the weeks turn into a month and a month turn into 2, that is when I think the grief of a layoff really hit me.
Yeah.
Because at first, I didn't feel that. Like I felt like, okay, you know what? This is okay. God is in control. Like that is very true. And I recognize this almost immediately as a gift because I had been working on this novel for some time. And I'm like, okay, well, this is the time I'll get to work on this novel because I knew I was getting a severance. So some of the financial pressure was kind of relieved a little bit. And I'm like, I can use this time to interview, but also to finish up the novel. And I mean, by God's grace, I finished the rewrites on the novel. I
Wow.
filed for the copyright registration. But as I'm doing that and enjoying it and loving it, there's still the fact that I'm still unemployed at the same time.
Yeah.
And I had a timeline in my mind from when I wanted to be employed again. And
Right.
guess what? Timeline passed.
Yeah,
That
of
deadline
course.
passed. And it's like, oh, ooh. And that is when you begin to grieve an expectation.
Yeah.
That is when you're like, Lord, okay, the insurance is about to lapse. Like the health insurance is going away. Uh, and I'm out here interviewing and applying, and I'm getting into these final rounds, but I'm not getting the offer. Or they seem poised to make me an offer, but suddenly they decide internally, like, oh, we need to reassess our hiring needs. We may not need anybody for this role after all. So we actually might eliminate it. That happened. I had gone through an entire interview process, was told in writing unanimously that I was the front runner for the role. 2 weeks of silence pass, no offer.
Yeah.
Finally, they let me know that, yeah, internally our leadership decided that we're not going to fill that position after all. This has happened to multiple people
Yeah.
in who are out of work right now. It is like hiring right now is really, really awful. Like it is awful. It's dismal out here. And so that is when the emotional heft of all of this really began to weigh on me. And I found myself feeling sad sometimes. And I
Yeah.
found myself feeling scared sometimes and worried sometimes. But at the same time,
Yeah.
now this is how God is, right? At the same time, this season has been so transformative because God has brought me to a place of deeper surrender.
Mm.
Like I I never idolized my job. I never thought like for a while I had done the work to decouple my identity from the work that I do.
Right.
But where God has brought me and my family in this season is a place of absolute and total dependence and neediness, where my ideologies about stability, what represents stability and what represents security, have been completely redefined. The job does not represent stability.
Mm.
The job does not represent security. As good as it feels, a paycheck does not represent those things because people can give it to you and take it away just as easily.
Right.
He is the source of our stability. He
Come on.
alone is the source of our security. And I recognize that there are people who are probably listening to this podcast don't really understand what I'm saying or why I'm saying it.
Right.
Try Jesus and you'll understand because
Right.
when all else fails
Yes.
and the world around you seemingly collapses, all you have sometimes to stand on is the fact that God is who he says he is.
Come on.
And that's what it's been. It is
Yeah.
us standing on the fact that God is exactly who he says he is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm human. I'm a person. I feel the feels. There are
Yes.
moments where I am low, where I feel like I am in the depths, where I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
this sucks. But he lifts me up and he reminds me that the most important thing is that he's with us. and that he is taking care of us, and that in his word, he says, I will supply all of your needs according to your riches and glory by Christ Jesus. In his word, he says that he is the God of all comfort. In his word, he says that he will never leave us nor forsake us.
Wow.
And some days, that is all I have, Seth.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Yeah.
I have nothing. The things that used to work for me, like you can look at my LinkedIn, you can look at my resume. Once upon a time, I was getting a job every few years. I would jump. The career was laddering. Like I was ascending by the world standards.
Yeah.
But God's like, okay, so what happens when you don't?
Wow.
Will you trust me when I take away some of the cushiness? Like, because I'm working jobs where I have unlimited PTO, amazing health insurance. Listen, we had a baby in 2023 essentially for free. Had to pay nothing. I was working at Shopify. They're a Canadian company. They had a nice contract with Cigna.
Yeah.
Didn't have to pay. We walked out that hospital without a bill after having Micah. It was nice. Not that I idolize those things, but they were nice.
They were nice.
It was cushy. Nice. Don't get me wrong. It was nice. It was cushy. But he's like, what happens? Yeah. Do you trust me just the same when I take away some of that cushiness?
Right.
That is the season we've been in. He has been stretching us, and he has been refining us, and he has been transforming us to a place where literally it's like, oh, he is the provider of our daily bread. Because my smarts don't matter right now.
No.
My degree doesn't matter right now. My experience doesn't even matter right now. My pedigree doesn't matter. Those things aren't working like they used to. Right. The only thing that will get us to a place where he has deemed us to go, he has determined we will go in terms of my career and what the job opportunity is going to look like, is him. Yeah. He has brought us to a place where in no uncertain terms, I'll be able to say, God did this. Jonathan didn't do it. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not capable enough. This will be God. Yeah. God and God alone. So
listen, y'all, this is why, we stated at the beginning about Beyond the Armor, because a lot of y'all are hearing stories that y'all have not heard about Jonathan, and also just seeing his transition and how he's dealing with the same thing that a lot of people are dealing with in layoffs, and how his perception and him dealing with some depressive mood at times, but being lifted up with his faith. And I think that's very important to understand that it may not look like we're going through the things that you all are going through, but we're going through it. But the way that we get through it, the way that we're carried through it, because sometimes we don't have the strength to make it through. Like you said, it doesn't matter about my eyes. It don't matter about my likeness. It doesn't matter about my history as a counselor. All these things do not matter. What matters is that mustard seed of faith. And I think in the Bible, when it talks about the mustard seed of faith, because when everything is going right, when we're ascending, when we're getting the job, when we have no problem, when the insurance is good, faith is big, right? It's huge. Like, God, I thank you for all of these things. But then when all those things are stripped away, sort of like the story of Job, your faith can get down to the size of a mustard seed. And if you know about a mustard seed can give birth to the biggest tree. And so that's the part that really shows the faithfulness that you have in the Lord. And I think that a lot of people need to hear that. And we respect everybody's beliefs. It's not about that, but we're just telling you what works for us.
This is what works for us.
Is that
this is who we are.
That God Jesus. And so that's who we are. Jonathan, man, listen. We still got a little bit more to go, man. I think this conversation. Listen, this is
do a part one, part two. Split this episode into two. Part one, part two.
Yeah, man. So where do you go, right? When you need time to be able to take off the title of dad, because I remember you saying like during the layoff, you didn't even, it was at 4:05 and you had to pick up baby girl at 4:30, and you didn't even have time to sit in that moment of like understanding what had just happened. And you had to immediately put on the father hat, and then you had to go home and put on the husband hat. And then you had to probably get vulnerable late at night after Micah probably sleep. If I'm imagining this thing the right 100%. Way, and talk to Yvonne about it. And even though Yvonne is probably she's supporting, it still doesn't feel good as a man
No.
sometimes, right? So tell
Oof.
me,
No, it
where
does
do
not.
you go when you get vulnerable, and
Mhm.
how do you recover? You kind of spoke on a little bit, but tell me exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I have to lean into the Holy Spirit. Like, I
yeah,
have to call on the name of Jesus, and even if that means literally just saying, "Jesus, help." It you and I talked about, like, we were talking about this a few days ago,
yeah,
but there are a lot of people who are still who might hear me speak and might hear me speak about the Lord in these effusive terms, and it feels passive or really emotional. And it's like, I don't care about getting passive or emotional or effusive or vulnerable with God, because I have in my life been touched by fire and he snatched me out. So I'm like,
wow,
yeah, I
yeah,
know what it means to get vulnerable with the Lord. I know what it means to bear all to him. I have cried, I have wept, I have wailed and sobbed in his presence unashamedly. I cry in church constantly.
yeah,
And you know what? I don't care,
right.
because I believe tears are a gift.
Yes, they
I
are.
believe crying is healing.
Yes,
And that is my first solution. Sometimes I literally was just on the phone with a close brother in the Lord, sobbing.
yeah,
And I am okay with that. So
yeah,
that is my first thing. And then to pick up on what I just said, it is having a band of, for me, brothers in
yeah,
Christ whom I can be vulnerable with.
yeah,
The Bible says that there is strength in the multitude of counselors.
yeah.
I do not believe we were designed to do life alone.
No,
I believe, in fact, that we were designed and created to exist in community. We need each other.
yeah,
And to your point, like, yes, Yvonne has been and is my safe space.
yeah,
She is the one I run to. She is the person I can confide in. Absolutely. I have leaned on her a lot in
yeah,
many different ways. But on the same token, it's like, I am also her husband. I am also
yeah.
Micah's father. I have responsibilities. I have
Excuse me.
duties.
Yeah,
I am a leader in my home.
yeah,
And so it's like, sometimes there are moments where it is hard to articulate what this makes me feel as a man.
yeah,
It is hard to talk to her about that, not because she can't understand or doesn't want to listen. She absolutely does, but there's a certain level, just like I don't know what it is to be a woman. I can't empathize with a woman. I can sympathize, but I can't
yeah,
empathize. I can't feel what you feel. It's the
yeah,
same. Like, she can't exactly feel how I feel as a father and as a husband. And
yeah,
so to have those people who I can lean on, like, I think about my best friend Junior. I think
yeah,
about my best friend Kenton. I think about, like, all these other people, you. I think
yeah,
about, my good pal, my buddy who's becoming a very close friend of mine, Rodney Richardson.
yeah,
He's one of the people on the LinkedIn post who
yeah,
commented.
yeah,
I think about, just these examples I have, my good friend Latrell, and I think about just all these other people I have in my circle, my pastor, who I can lean on. Like, these are the people that I can lean on in those moments where I'm like, bruh, I'm
yes,
struggling. I'm
yeah,
struggling with the fact that I'm unable to provide for my family right now. I'm
yeah,
struggling with the fact that, Yvonne works at a nonprofit. And so we're like, sometimes we're thinking like, okay, regarding health insurance, typically, historically, we have leaned and relied on mine because I've typically worked the jobs where the health insurance is of a different, maybe better quality. And
yeah,
it's like, without that, it's like, okay, what decisions do we make? What concessions might we have to make? Um, I've struggled with that. I've struggled with just kind of sometimes being here and not having a job to do. Like,
yeah,
like, I mean, I do a lot around the house. Um, I handle the laundry. I've done a lot of cooking. Not even before the layoff, I was doing that stuff, but even more so now because I'm here during the day. And so sometimes it's like, sometimes I feel not lazy, but kind of like, I don't know. It's hard to explain sometimes. I just feel not less of a man, but just kinda less of myself in some ways,
yeah, yeah,
if
yeah.
that makes
Because
sense, like.
we've been conditioned. Let me give you some. Hopefully, I can give you some spiritual relief. Right?
Mhm.
It's like we have been conditioned through media, which medium means the middle of the truth and a lie. right?
Mm,
And so media, when we look at some media, it can kind of deter the way we think about ourselves, right?
mhm,
Because comparison, all these things. But anyway, when I think about the medium, I think about how the identity of man has been birthed in the Western culture. And that's why we see that men more successfully follow through with ideation more than anybody else in the world.
mhm,
Y'all know what I'm talking about. And then also, men, statistically, pass away earlier than women. It's because we take on weight that
mhm,
we never was
mm,
even built to carry because
mhm.
of the identity that we have picked up from the medium. And
Yes.
so when in the Bible when it talks about give me all of you, it's saying it's actually saying give me all of that you're
Yeah.
not meant to carry, right? the
Surrender.
the, the
Mm,
title of the man, the maybe your wife is the breadwinner,
mhm,
maybe you're at home right now, but sometimes God will put you in a cocoon so
mm.
you can come out and be that beautiful butterfly that he created you to be. But
Yeah.
sometimes you have to be in a place where you can hear his still
Yeah.
small
Small voice.
voice. And with
Yes.
being a staff content creator and all of these different titles, dad, husband, all of these things, it was almost impossible to hear him the way that we need to hear him. And
A
so when I
100%.
look at what you've been through, because when people hear my story, they're gonna hear a lot of similarity about the doubts and how I felt and all
Mhm,
those things. But now you're in a place where you actually can hear his voice and you have to give him everything. And it's sort of
mhm,
like in the Psalms when I see
mhm.
David crying out to God, like even through his
Yes.
sins, even through,
Mhm.
do not, give me over to my enemies. And sometimes your enemies are not people.
It
Sometimes your
could be
enemy is that reflection that you see in the
Yes.
mirror. And it talks about in Ephesians about the helmet of salvation. The
Yeah.
helmet of salvation is to keep you focused on the Lord, sort of like those kids were in that third world country that you went to,
Yeah.
because you was able to see them laser focused on who Jesus was, is
Yeah.
because it's easier for them to have their helmet of salvation on, and because they didn't have all the noise.
Right.
Kevin O'Leary said something. I don't know if you know Kevin O'Leary from
Yeah.
Make a Millionaire show,
Yeah.
but he said something, and Andrew in my earlier episode he said Kevin O'Leary said if you can get noise to 20% and signal to 80%,
Yes.
this is when
Signal.
you hear
Woo.
success. And
Yeah.
I look at it in the context of like in the Bible, it talks about all the noise, all
Mhm,
the naysayers, all of the things that's happening in Revelation, right?
mhm,
And if I could hear the signal, if I can go to Revelation 3:8 that says, any door that God has opened for me, no man can shut. Then
mhm,
all the doors that have shut for me, that mean God closed. And any
mhm.
door that has opened for me or that's gonna open for me is God open. And so
100%. Mm.
hopefully that is something that you could take with you today, to encourage you, and I'm standing in the gap with you and I'm fighting
Thank
with
you.
you through prayer. Yeah,
Thank you.
man.
I appreciate that. And that's what helps us get through. It
Yeah,
is that partnership, it is the
yeah,
reminders, it is just knowing that this is not purposeless as you know, as much as it hurts
yeah,
sometimes, as the much as the process stings, I know, I am certain that there is another side to this. Like,
yes,
this is not intended to destroy me.
right,
This will not crush me. It
at
will
all.
form something in me. It is
Yeah,
formed. It has formed something in me, but
yeah,
it is not intended to just wipe me out. Um, I know there have been people who have struggled with depression, who have struggled with that S ideation that we talked about earlier
yeah,
after a layoff. And I get it now. Like
yeah,
I get it. I
yeah,
get it. I get it. But I get it more than I got it before. But I think the fact that I know that this is not the end keeps me, like, it keeps me focused, it keeps me steady. And also just knowing and believing again that there is another side to this, and that that side is beautiful, and that it's glorious, and that it's better than what I could plan for myself.
right,
I have, as a human, we have these really, like, these predefined ideas of what success means and what our
Yeah.
career should look like and what life should look like.
Right.
And the reality very rarely matches that for
For
most
sure.
people. Very rarely. I learned that early in my life. And so I am careful. I've tried to be more careful about my expectations and
Yeah.
pivoting when life and reality just don't meet those things.
Yeah.
And it's not. But I believe that God has even better in store. I don't know
Yes.
what that looks like.
Right.
I don't know when it's gonna come, where it's gonna come from, but I believe that it's gonna come. That's what helps me. That is what anchors my hope. I believe that it will come. This too shall pass. It
Yes.
absolutely will. This too shall
Yes.
pass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jonathan, man, listen, this conversation is $1 million conversation. I should be charging y'all to subscribe to my channel.
Well, listen, monetization in Jesus' name. Yes. One day. One day. He
Listen,
can
we'll
do it.
get there. And
Yes.
listen, I think the most important thing about what we did today was be able to encourage others, right? And
Amen.
in their hard times, because a lot of people going through a lot of things, more
Yeah.
than layoffs is other stuff, medical issues
Mhm.
and uncertainties all over the place, right? But Jonathan, before we leave, what is one or two things that you can give to people who may be struggling at this moment with layoffs and also, dealing with family members that having
Mhm.
medical issues or themselves? What can you give them before you leave?
Yeah. Like Seth said, we are not trying to necessarily proselytize or like push our beliefs onto anybody. However, I will say, like, if you can find something outside of yourself to believe in, to hope for, to look to, do that.
Yeah,
don't don't look to your job or even your circumstances as the end all and be all. Life happens. It happens to us all. No one is immune, but you are worth more than the job. Your value is worth more. Who you are as a person is worth more than what your resume says about you or what your headline says on LinkedIn. That is not who you are. It's what you do for now, but that can change.
yeah,
So be open to that change and be open to the fact that you have inherent God given value by virtue of being alive. I think
wow,
the second thing is kind of related to the first. Find the things that bring you joy and pursue them. Like, if I am so grateful that I had this novel to work on during this time
yeah,
because it honestly felt in a lot of ways like play. Like it felt like, okay, I can take a break from the dismal reality of the job market and I can make something all my own. It is mine. It is my vision. It is my creativity and my imagination on full display. I am not meeting anybody else's aggressive timeline. I am not trying to do a bunch of performative theater for stakeholders and managers. I am not trying to, like, I don't have to deal with performance reviews or any of this stuff, internal politics of work, none of that. It's all me, baby.
yeah,
This is mine and I love it and I can do with it what I want.
yeah,
Find that thing for yourself.
yeah,
Whatever it is, if it's gardening, if it's hiking, if it's Pilates, I don't care. Find the thing that brings you the most joy that is all for you and pursue that. Take time to pursue that. You'll need that. You'll need that. So, yeah, those are the two things. And I think, just to close out, I just really appreciate you, Seth, for cultivating this sacred space. And I cannot wait for your episode because what people may not have picked up on, or maybe you have picked up on, Seth and I were not aware of each other's existence before like 8 years ago.
wow,
So we didn't grow up as like the reason we've been able to get this close is God ordained. There's a whole backstory that he will tell y'all.
yeah,
Um, but like, yeah, I didn't know Seth existed
yeah,
when I was growing up. And so for us to be as close as we are today, it truly is a blessing. And it is a beautiful story
yeah,
of forgiveness, redemption, reconciliation, and families just coming together. And once I became aware of Seth, like I was like, listen, you family. we got to
Yeah.
bring you in. We got to
Yeah.
bring you in. We got to
Yeah.
bring you in. And so,
Yeah.
I am just so grateful that we have continued to remain. There have been, there have been lulls, life be
Yeah.
life, and things
Life,
happen.
life, yeah.
But like, I am just so grateful that we are here where we are today. I love you. I value
Love you
you,
too.
and I am just so very proud of you.
Man, I appreciate you so much, man. Listen, y'all, this has been an amazing episode. I hope you rewind and watch a lot of parts. I'm gonna chop it up. And Jonathan, I just really want to thank you for your time, man, taking time out of your day and through the situations that you have to face and be able to come on here and be able to share some time with me and also the people that's looking on. And I'm taking a lot from it because I truly believe iron sharpens iron, and you
Absolutely.
definitely help sharpening my sword
Yep.
to
Same.
continue to move forward in my life and understand the blessings that we do have and how things can happen, but to still
Hmm.
stay strong in my faith. So I really
Amen.
appreciate you today. Listen, everybody, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. I definitely got to get my cousin back. This is legendary. This
Yeah.
probably gonna be probably the most legendary episode so far. No knock to anybody else
Right, right,
that I'm
right.
gonna have because I love y'all too, and y'all are legendary. But because this is my kinfolk and we really got deep today, it's really gonna be
Mm-hmm.
one of those episodes. So I like y'all for thank y'all for tuning in. We love you all. Keep your head up and do what he said. Those last 2 points.